Greetings and welcome to the Thirsty Mage, the podcast enjoying a rare lull during an RPG release season. I'm your host Dave Lloyd, and this episode we'll be talking about some games we've been playing. In between the big title releases that are coming up, we had a few earlier in the year. Doesn't seem to be a whole lot coming up in April, other than one that we just found out about. And then we're gonna have a whole lot of heavy hitters in May, and going onward. But yeah, we're also going to even share some impressions on a particular movie that just came out as well. And joining me for this discussion tonight, just days after Karma paid her back for her Final Fantasy XVI Collector's Edition purchase by bequeathing a pretty impressive Octopath Traveler 2 prize, it's Paige Chamberlain.
I was sorry when you were rewriting that up to make it more fancy.
Yeah.
I was waiting for ages to post that because it took ages to get here. I think over 2 weeks, and I'm like, really? Unfortunately I didn't win the Switch version, but I'll just have to kick someone off the PS5 to play that. And I was gonna say they're about to go on leave, so I don't even have the I can play when they're at work option.
Just gonna toss them.
It's also payback because I got the special edition of Pixel Remaster from Japan ordered, so hopefully that posts April.
I'm really hemming and hawing on that Pixel Remaster game, just because I bought the Steam version, so I have it digitally, but now I'm like, oh man, that's a lot of money.
You and your Steam Deck,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that I don't regret the purchase because I've already played the first 3 games and loved them, and I probably would prefer to play them on Steam Deck regardless. It's just it's that little, devil on my shoulder that's like, you need the physicals. You need the physicals.
They bullied everyone into fixing the font, so
yeah. Every now and then, when the world craps on them, they eventually give a little bit. They're not going to give it all, but they'll give an inch. Yeah. So my next game might be I've restarted Final Fantasy IV a few times now, and I might actually give it a go, but while we're waiting for Final Fantasy 16 to come around, I'm also considering playing The World Is Not Enough on no, The World Ends With You. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's like, what? I've never
That's
heard
like
of that
90s James Bond movie, the other one. The World Ends With You on my 3DS. So
you got a DS copy?
Yeah, I got a DS.
I was gonna say, because I remember I got the Switch version, and then I was like, nope, because on TV mode you have to have your arm pointed out in a very stiff way. It's bad.
Not doing that.
If you get that, you might as well play it touchscreen, right? And it's on phones as well. But
I'm pretty sure there's a Steam version of it, but I if there was going to be any kind of touch screening my Steam Deck, that's a no go for me.
I know that you mean the new one or the old. The new one is on Steam.
Is the old one not on there too? I thought the old one was on there.
No, just the new one.
Just the new one? Oh, okay. And I'm sure they've made it so you don't have to touch your screen for that one. So
yeah,
it's funny. I actually did. I own the new one on Switch. I came across a Switch physical copy. I think it was in like a Hawk Shop or something. And it was like $15, and I'm like, sweet, I'll take this.
Yeah, I haven't actually played either. I'm on my second copy of The World Ends With You because I lent my copy to someone back at high school.
I'm also my second copy because I
sent
the first copy to a
game, but not the case. And I was just like, how do you do that?
That's pretty impressive to lose. At least, I don't know. Cases seem to go for pretty good money too. So if you threw it up on eBay or something, you could probably get a few bucks.
I don't have that anymore, I think. But I don't even know not that I care too much about what region rating it is, other than sometimes some stick out worse because it's a completely different layout. But that's an import copy, I think, because I got it from my favorite shop in Adelaide, which is in Tokyo, back when they had DS games. And I was like, thank goodness I can get, but that is something I should play.
Yeah, it's funny. Region locking seems like such a funny. Like one day the kids will be like, What do you mean you had to be in a certain place in the world to play a certain game?
Well, it's funny though, because the DS games aren't region locked, but the 3DS games are.
Yeah, Nintendo got greedy.
But yeah.
Money decision had to be. Can't think of any other reason why.
I don't know. Yeah, and I think it was like the Generations port or Monster Hunter World was like the first time Monster Hunter online play wasn't region locked.
Oh,
So I'd be like stuck in with European play because of
that's
power
funny.
reach. Because yeah, someone like sibling had an exchange student over once, and they couldn't play them Monster Hunter games together because they were just like not compatible versions. But that's thankfully been changed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so lots of
Well,
annoying things like that.
yeah. Speaking of Nintendo, though, you recently enjoyed the Mario movie, from what you told me.
Yeah, watched that at 10:30 a.m. because that was
Oh,
the
really?
first.
You went the morning?
That was the first showing, and yeah, husband had afternoon shift, so
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's funny seeing like all the critic scores be so low because it's like people are like why da da, and it's like yeah, movie critics aren't going to care for a kids movie that has a pretty shallow story, basically. And yeah, I think the movie's good, but that's my thing. It's definitely a kids movie, and definitely the story is pretty basic. It's kind of like, you two are losers. You'll always be losers, and then oh my god, you saved us all. You're the best. It's like that, it's just that's pretty much it. I don't think Illumination did too many bad things. Like they definitely did bits where you have like the 80s music cutting in for a little bit at the start of the scene.
Yeah.
But then they also did really good use of the Nintendo music because even when there's like just doing some kart prep, there was like Mario Kart 8 menu music. There's sort of there's like just so many little references. Like it's a bit, Mario's playing like you want to spot things. You're like, oh, that's a duck picture, and Mario's playing Kid Icarus and things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And seeing
That's
like
good.
some of the different characters.
So Chris
But yeah,
Pratt's voice didn't bother you?
nah, it was fine. Even Seth Rogen's wasn't too bad either. Like his stupid laugh actually works pretty well for Donkey Kong, I think.
That's
So
good.
yeah. And then it's funny seeing some of the weird stuff some of the critics like that don't know much about games are saying like, oh, it's about as much fun as an unplugged Game Boy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Some of it, yeah. But I think it's a good kids movie. Like, and it's good, just not it's great, And it was
Yeah.
definitely, and for someone who really likes Nintendo, like the whole time you're like this and this and this thing's in there. So that's kind of like they made Toad just Toad, which is kind of fair enough. But then he kind of acts like Captain Toad, so you kind of wonder why they decided not to do that because they're clearly like promoting like Mario Kart with the carts and like Odyssey with some of the outfits and stuff. So it's like, why not promote Captain Toad as well? But it's if you're a Nintendo fan or you've got kids to take and watch, it's definitely worth it though.
Yeah, that's.
I wasn't expecting anything like crazy with it either, like.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like I didn't even like kind of Miyamoto's not. I don't know. He's not like a deep lore guy. Like
No, he specifically said he doesn't care for stories in games and has tried to like stop people from putting stories in games till four. So
yeah. So it from what I read anyway, it sounded exactly what I figured it would be.
yeah, it's just a Mario origin story.
Yeah.
I guess
Just
it
kind
was
of a feel
interesting
good.
to see like Bowser be like evil because like he's done bad things, but this one it was like, yeah, we're gonna like he was like actually do really bad things. It was like, well, like Bowser's kidnapped and attacked people, but he hasn't really been that violent in other depictions. So
Oh.
it's usually like a canon or something. Like bad, but it's like they definitely emphasize the evilness a bit.
Yeah. That's good. I'm assuming Jack Black probably put on a good show as Bowser.
Yeah. He obviously got a song as well.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's funny. I actually just saw him in The Mandalorian. He was in the latest episode of that, so he's making the rounds.
Mm. But yeah, and now it's like there's a bunch of Mario stuff at the cinema, and they're doing like a Mario Kart tournament. So now I have to beat some kids, or lose to them for some paltry prize. So it's fun. But yeah, yeah, that's, like I said, there's not much to say about it. It's a good kids movie. It's what I basically was expecting, and for someone who likes that stuff, it's like, ooh, look at this thing, look at that thing. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely there for the nostalgia.
yeah. A lot of people are like but it's interesting because obviously movie critics are going to expect, they want things to be good, but some of people are like, it's just so kind of vapid and this. And it's like, yeah,
Cool.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I can't
That's
believe
good.
it wasn't massively emotionally charged and dramatic. How can you?
Yeah. Well, they can't all be into the Spider-Verse.
No.
Cool. Well, yeah, this episode we have, I guess, a trio of games that we're going to be talking about in different capacities. So, Paige, why don't you kick us off? This is a game I haven't actually played myself. I know you and Jordan did an episode on it, enjoyed it, but could not bring myself. I've been too distracted by Square Enix games to jump into this one. So this is the DLC for Fire Emblem Engage.
Yeah, so the final part of the DLC dropped, which is, I guess pretty fast, but we know that this game was supposed to come out like 3 years ago, so I think it got held back a bit. Or like, yeah, I knew about it for a little bit. So it was like, the first things of DLC were like these paralogs you can do, and then you can get emblems and bracelets. So there'd be like a couple each time. And I didn't actually play with the Wave 3 drop, whereas this fourth one is like the actual, new story content. And the DLC bracelets obviously break the game like any DLC in a game does. I don't know if I mentioned it in, because it's like semi spoilers, but like there's parts of the story where you won't have your emblems, and they'll be like, oh no, we don't have emblems, but the DLC doesn't count, so you still got your DLC ones.
Oh, jeez.
It's like, oh no, I'm so empowered. Like, I don't, like, yeah, and the opposite of that. But so yeah, you can play like 3 of those, and then they're just with you in your main game. But I watched a video of this DLC before I played it, and it's like, and I've played apparently chapter wise. I'm like halfway through already because it's like only about 6-ish chapters, so like, 6-ish battles. But it's very, it's like, sometimes you're like, is a person making these decisions when it comes to games sometimes, because it's connected to your save file specifically, and I get sort of where it takes place. You want to be like at least partway through the story to have met the characters, because basically it's like you get called to another world, and you take the place of the Divine Dragon there because the one from there is dead and things have gone bad. And
Okay.
and so there's alternate versions. So like you're fighting the people you make friends with in the main game because they're all like bloodthirsty and like opposite personality almost. And then
So it's like an intermission from your own playthrough.
And it's like, and then the four people they continuously fight and engage are now good, which is kind of annoying because like again they're doing the personality flip. So like there was this one guy whose whole thing was being about like pain, like sadomasochistic, like like I want to fight, I want to feel pain, make you feel pain, and this one he's like a little scaredy cat that doesn't want any pain. And they took this one doesn't have, he's dressed the same, but like he doesn't have any tattoos or piercings now. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. So you get to have a playable version of him, but he doesn't look as cool.
Aw.
And they gave him all different names, so instead of like Grissy's Gregory and stuff like that.
Everybody's got to have a multiverse now.
But yeah, it's weird because it's like you can choose a different difficulty level from what your main playthrough is, and I think someone said because it doesn't need to be play tested. Like I just play on normal, which is kind of easy, right? And then in this DLC, it's very easy. But people said like the next difficulties don't seem like they seem extremely difficult.
A big jump.
Yeah, like really like compared to the main game. And yeah, I get that you have to make some progress for this part to make sense, but it being tied to your save means that like you have to get the stuff you get from beating this, you have to play through it each time you play the game instead of just like, I'm pretty sure in Three Houses, the DLC that I played, it was like a separate thing, so you just had to play through it, and then that would unlock some things, but also just having the DLC would give you some things as well. So that's just kind of weird that like it makes it a chore that you have to do. Like if you want to if you care to replay these games. And for me, I was thinking, oh, I should do some of the paralogs and stuff that I didn't do before this comes out, right? Because that'll be connected. I'm like, no. Then I watched the story trailer. I'm like, oh, that won't be connected at all, obviously. And then it is connected. So it's like set levels and set characters, but not also. But you can also have a couple of your regular party members, which I haven't seen the explanation for that yet. But apparently there is one from what I've heard. Because like they have unique dialogue prompts when they talk to some of the characters, so they obviously are actually there somehow. But but yeah, it's like, you know, you'll have whatever skills and bond levels and whatever you have set up for them, and you can take your emblems with you, which again so far isn't making sense in the story because like you're finding the DLC characters bracelets because those are the emblems in that world, and then you're putting them to rest. You're not actually using them. But if you have any of the rings or bracelets, you can just totally use those. So at the moment, there's a big disconnect with like the gameplay there, and yet set levels and set classes, so your characters might not be really built for that specific thing, which I think is part of why the other difficulty levels might be so difficult because you think it would be specifically catered, but it doesn't quite work because it's tied to your.
They only had 3 years to plan this.
Yeah, like, but it's like tied to your save file. So like I'm post game, so like obviously everything's probably even more easy because I've got like that extent, and the inventory is specific too, but you can't manage the inventory pre-battle like you normally can. So you have to like convoy with the main character to swap around the inventory because it's like set each match or something.
Yeah.
So story-wise, it seems kind of interesting. But just all this stuff, it's just like what
they just phoned it in a little bit for the.
They went in Chat GPT and were like, write the game mechanics for the DLC, and then they're like, yep, that doesn't sound like anything's wrong with that.
maybe the main team is ready to move on. They're like, oh man, we gotta do this DLC. Where's Bob?
Yeah,
let's get Bob on it.
I know some things I want to look up though, because like one of the DLC characters is Veronica from Problem Hero. So her thing is she does a gacha where she summons a random enemy, which could be one of the emblems or like even just like a random guy, basically. So that happened in the opponent I was facing was using her. So I wanted to see if that particular summon is a set one because there wasn't any unique dialogue or if it is truly random even in that battle. But yeah, normal definitely easy because like even aside from, you know, it being a post game save connection, so there'd be some, I don't know, cause like the levels tied, but I don't know, I feel like the skills at least are what level they are, whatever they are, like I've put in. But there's this new class where it's the Mage Cannoneer, so it's like, oh, make sure not to get hit by them, and 90% of the time they were getting completely missed, like they were not hitting me at all.
Oh,
so it was like, oh no. And then when they did, it was like a silence or a poison and a little bit of damage, and it was like, oh, okay, that's it. But I did like, I haven't, yeah, because I thought this DLC was going to be sort of different or something. I was like, oh, you know, do all the paralogs I didn't do later, and I haven't done the chapters to like for the main game to recruit Crom and Veronica, but I did the other ones, which I liked those maps. One of which was I ended up because I kept doing the 10 rewind. I ended up permanently retiring a character because I just kept saving her from dying, and I'm like, you know what? You're just pretend dead. Like you're benched forever. You like I'm sick of saving. But the DLC characters are super fun and a bit broken. And like I said, it kind of ruins too much of the main game. So not 100% sure if it was worth it. But I do get silly outfits for the Somnia where everyone is just a Somni, and I'm pretty sure that's from owning the DLC. It's hard to tell because they do updates at the same time, so I'm not sure if like some of these things are DLC exclusive or update
Oh,
exclusive.
yeah.
Like they've added joke weapons in the wave 3, so you have like the lolly chop, which is a lollipop axe,
Oh,
and like I'm forgetting the one, the knife is like Dungo, and like something, yeah, just a bunch of like, oh yeah, I'm still trying to get the chocolate bar sword. Is the one I'm missing. Um, fun stuff like that. But I was like, I'm not sure if you need to have the DLC to get that, or if it was just an update related thing.
yeah, it's funny with the stuff like that. I should pay more attention to it, but I usually don't. Like it's the same with like pre-order bonus stuff, where it's like like for Octopath, I know I pre-ordered it and there was some extra stuff it gave you, but I didn't even notice. Like I think it was like some potions or something at the beginning, and I
Yeah,
completely forgot.
a lot of the time with some of that stuff, it's just like stuff you can get in the game. Although
Yeah.
DLC wise, I think the only way to get, so there's a silver card is a thing you can get in Fire Emblem games or recent ones, and you just get a permanent shop discount. And I'm pretty sure you have to buy the DLC and play one of the DLC maps to get it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's the only way to get it in this game.
I still think the funniest one was I think I accidentally bought like some kind of ultimate version of SMT5, and we had that, so we did like the spoiler
Oh
cast
yeah.
on it, and I kept talking about like, well, the Miedema, I don't know why, like they're everywhere. Why is this difficult? Like you just kill one, you get like 15 levels. Like why is this so difficult? They're like, where are you finding these? I'm like, they're everywhere. They're literally everywhere. We're like, what are you guys doing? And then I find out I had purchased the right to have them everywhere. So
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to bust the game, the DLC's there. I think the game's fine without that. Like, I don't really feel like I wasted my money because I played with some of the characters because they released so quickly. Like during my playthrough, that took about 2 months. Um, I got to play with a few of them, and I'm not really like a replay a game type of person.
yeah.
But it seems like so
Well,
far
that's a
the
good.
story is interesting, but like you don't really need it.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate when the DLC is like there, like at least early, if not like the same day sort of thing, because it's like with so many games you just completely fall off the wagon as soon as, like, if there's a gap of like a month, like it's done. Like I have a hard time going
Yeah,
back,
like
especially when it's like
I
you have to remember what you were doing and stuff.
like Cindered Shadows came out at a time that was just busy for me. Like I was literally away and reviewing a game around Valentine's, and I think I bought the collectors of Ni no Kuni 2, so it came with like the season pass, and the DLC came out again. I was just too busy to play games at that point, so it's just I just never got to it.
Well, I bought like the $40 or whatever it was Breath of the Wild DLC back when it
I've
when it
never
came
played
out.
that.
Never played it. And I'm like, what a
40,
waste of money. Like,
isn't it? It's just it was 30 Australian. I remember because like a lot of the early Switch DLC wasn't too expensive. It was like $30 Australian. I'm like, okay, that's all right. And they started
yeah.
cranking up the price bit by bit. So like the Animal Crossing one, I think is like almost 40, and then a couple are like 45, and you're like, oh, that's like, oh, yeah. No, I was complaining about Pokemon Sword and Shield because I didn't buy that DLC for ages because it's like half the cost, more than half the cost of the game. So I was like, what?
Oh, that's another one I bought DLC for and never played.
See, I had that's what I should stream because I had a specific video idea involving that game, and that's the only reason I bought the DLC was to get more Pokemon for it.
Yeah. Wasn't
But
the DLC wasn't there like some island that you took a train to or something?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's part of it because that released in 2 parts too. Yeah, so it's just
Yeah.
like
You should,
initially a lot of this DLC was like $30 for the Switch. I'm like, okay, and then it was like $37.50. I'm like, that's like half the price of the game, and then the Pokemon one is more than half the price of the game.
well, don't worry, the Switch game prices are going up, so it won't be half anymore. It'll still be $40, but it won't be half anymore.
Yeah. Although I say with the Happy Home Paradise, I bought the expansion pack because it was cheaper than when you have a family group. It was cheaper than buying like 3 or 4 copies of the DLC.
Oh yeah, yeah. I ended up
uh,
getting that too because my kids wanted it, and
Cause
I
like
still haven't played it.
because if you're on the same Switch, it's like only one person needs to own it. But if you have multiple Switches, it's like just get the
Yeah.
expansion pack. at the moment. Have to buy it later.
Yeah.
The expansion pack's a whole nother thing. It's like, so they added, so first brought it out for like Happy Home Paradise DLC for Animal Crossing, and then the Mario Kart DLC is part of that, so I haven't had to buy that either. And then they retroactively added Splatoon 2 DLC to it, so my sister can play that now. But all this other stuff's come out, and it's not part of the expansion pack, like the Xenoblade DLC. No? The Fire Emblem DLC? Like, these are both first or second party, games. I get certain games wouldn't be, because like it'd be mostly Nintendo, but like I think Nintendo owns Monolith or something now.
Yeah, I would have assumed that the Xenoblade would have been, but
And yeah, I think Fire Emblem and Xenoblade are like $45 DLC.
yeah. Well, there's your answer right there.
So,
they need that extra 45.
So I guess,
or you think they'd at least
American.
It would give you a discount. You like, even if they weren't going to give you the whole thing, you would think it would at least give you a discount. Like if you're an expansion pass owner, then you get like half off or something. But
yeah, it was like, we're getting all these new expansion packs, and they're like, no, it's just those 3. Like, they could even add the Luigi's Mansion DLC, because like that's cheap as, and it's only like some multiplayer stuff, But no,
yeah,
it's just like, but why? He's a handful of Game Boy Advance games now. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
I just don't want to buy $45 DLC. Is that too much? I think you got to remember to add DLC to your wish list, because sometimes DLC goes on sale. And then you can
Right? Yeah.
So I think I've done that with a couple games. I've just got the individual DLCs. Another thing you got to look out for is sometimes it's cheaper to buy the ultimate version of the game than the two.
Yeah.
So, like with Shantae, Half Genie Hero, it was cheaper to buy the Ultimate Edition than to pay for the DLC I didn't have. And then I was looking at Demon Turf, and it's cheaper to buy the bundle with the DLC, or it's the same price as just buying just the game. So it's like, why is just the game still listed, Like, why haven't you reduced the price? And I think the same with the Wargroove, it was like on sale recently, but like, same price as the bundled version with the extra content. And it's like, so someone's gonna buy the version without the extra stuff when they could have bought the pack with the DLC for exactly the same price, because you haven't at least lowered the price down.
Yeah, well, Persona 5 Royal was that way too, right? Like wasn't the versions that they sold now on like Switch and Steam had all the DLC.
Yeah, but they didn't update it for the PS4 version. So I saw one thing like the PS4 DLC was saying like, oh, when they're gonna actually Switch, I was like, it's already in the Switch content, you ding dong.
Yeah.
I just didn't bother responding to them. Like, if you haven't noticed that about your game, like, well, then obviously you haven't. Yeah. But yeah, DLC often comes out at a bad time, and this one, because kind of came out what most people would say was too soon, just because the game got held back. I've actually been able to play it. So it's like, what do I play right now? Oh, I did do a lot of pickups this year, but I'm just like, got thrown off by playing Ryza 3, so now I'm like, don't feel like going back to what I was wanting to play before then.
I definitely love to see the statistics on sales of like DLC when it's sold at like very early on versus a few months later. I'd have to think that at least selling it early on would be, they must get more sales than trying to bring it out later, you would think.
Because like some people would just buy it at the same time, so they wouldn't have to worry about it later, and then never play it.
Yeah. Hey, I'm guilty of that.
Well, I think I did get, say, like the Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity DLC. I thought that was on sale, so I bought it. Because I was like, I hadn't even played it yet, but I was just like, there we go, it's $21 instead of $30. But yeah, like that and the Breath of the Wild DLC is $30 Australian, and then everything else has gone up since.
Yeah.
But it was really important that I had the Nintendo Switch shirt on my Wii U. So.
That's right. Well, the next game on our list is a game, a Square Enix game. A surprise to, I think, a surprise to most people.
Well, they didn't even show it they showed it in the Japanese direct, but not the English one. But then it was releasing in English on the same day as the Japanese release, so
Well, and it's
it
funny
was
too
a weird choice
because
to not include it.
yeah, I almost wonder if it was a surprise hit to Square because like even playing in the game, it kind of feels like maybe they weren't. It was gonna just stay in Japan because like they did. It is localized and it seems to be localized well or whatever. But like there's clearly some things that happen in it that it's like, if this was voice acted, this a few of these things would be a little bit easier. A few riddles would have been a little more clear. But
Yeah, like I can't go into that because that's like the spoil. Like the Paranormasight is the game we're talking about because I don't think you said
oh,
that.
okay. Well, I actually, it's funny. I had the thing up because it's the big long. It's Paranormasight: The Seven Mysteries of Honjo,
Yep.
and I had to have the list up because everyone's name is like very deep Japan.
Except for
And I don't.
Rick Takai,
Yeah, yes,
the detective guy.
yeah.
um, yeah, so that's a visual novel with like point and click aspects, and it's actually one interesting thing is a lot of the maps are 3D as well. So I said I did a video on it where there's like a big chunk you got to avoid the spoilers because I had complained about like one puzzle that no
Yeah.
one's argued with me yet, but like have
Well,
more
it
to say
got
on it.
me. I had to Google it because I'm like,
Well,
what in the
no,
world
that's
is
something
going
I
on?
want to talk to you privately more about because like it's sort of like there's ways that it could have been okay with me if they'd implemented it better, but it's
Yeah.
like it's almost as yeah.
Well, I was
But
mostly mad that the game kept screaming at me like, "We told you already," and it's like, "Well, if you told me already,
it's
tell
so
me
funny
now. Tell me
because I
now."
like
Like,
took a screenshot of when I got told that instruction because I thought it meant something else later. You know,
oh,
so technically I even had it saved. But yeah, it's point and click visual novel. And yeah, it really goes into the picking up items and stuff, and that really early on. I think the main thing, like I said, it's a game. You're better off not knowing too much about it,
yeah,
especially because like some of the puzzles and things. But my things are that it gets a lot more text heavy further on, but
yes,
most people you expect from a visual novel. But it just sort of, and I feel like it sort of switches from like a horror game to a thriller game partway through. Like it becomes a lot less,
well,
like
yeah, I
you're
was,
reading, so it's not super scary, but
yeah,
like it definitely kind of calms down a little bit. Like it's still tense, but not like the start of the game where it's very
no, well, it's funny
fun for your life.
like to call it a horror game is almost, there's a few jump scares at the beginning, but after that, it's the horror almost completely is almost completely gone, really, by like after the first hour or two.
Yeah.
Like there's not much.
Well, that's I like things you wouldn't necessarily call a horror, but maybe like the older term for gothic, or it's like maybe disturbing or creepy stuff's happening, but it's not
Yeah.
necessarily like actually scary.
No,
Um,
like suspenseful, I guess maybe
yeah,
or
well, that's why I
something.
said it turns into a thriller, basically.
Yeah.
You've got
Yeah.
you still got like a sort of
Yeah, very
yeah,
crime, like kind of like a true crime who done it to a
but
certain degree, like
with
mystery
ghosts.
with ghosts, yeah,
Yes, with ghosts.
and
Um,
curses.
yes. But apparently the director of it has done a lot of those style of games, and this is his first time that the game's actually one of his games has come outside of Japan. So like he's
Yeah.
really well known for this stuff. So hopefully
I'm
we
hoping
get
it does well so that we can get some more. Like maybe they go back.
it's also I think it's fairly short, but it's sort of priced appropriately to that
Yes.
because I know a lot of visual novels can be very expensive, although which in some cases I think it's like because it got full Japanese voice acting or something, but other times I'm not quite sure whether. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's 30 Australian now that it's full price, so probably
Oh right, because yeah, I think when I bought it, I pre-ordered it for 20% off, so I think it was like
yeah.
$20 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, it's probably 20, 25 American or
Yeah.
something like that.
It's
Um,
funny. So I ended up getting. So I missed one of the bad endings, I guess, and
oh
so I
yeah,
went back and
I'm
finished
trying to
like
figure
the
out how to get it.
yeah. I had to go back and get that one last ending because I'm like, oh, there's not that many trophies and stuff, so maybe I'll platinum this one. And then I finished at like 8.5 hours, And I'm like, okay, there's nothing left to do. Like, what are the other
The
challenges, or
stickers.
whatever?
The stickers.
Well, there's one. Yeah, stickers is one, but one of the
Very good.
challenges is play for 10 hours, and I'm like, what?
You just leave it open for
I was like, you want me to play for another hour and a half?
read slower. God.
Oh yes, read. I'm like, I'm looking at it, I'm like, there's literally nothing to do. Because I think I ended up getting the stickers, all the stickers. So I was like, no.
I guess the other thing is it's set in like the 80s in Japan. I was thinking it was like the 70s, but then like the newspaper mentioned Space Invaders, so it's like, okay, it's probably early 80s because
I love
like
the fascination over the fascination over the fax machine.
Yeah.
Look at this wondrous, miraculous invention.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's usually sometimes a good idea to set your game retro when you're doing some of that, like this kind of stuff, because you're like, otherwise you have to come up with excuses for why people don't have phones or the internet's not working.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't, like, there's no such thing, basically.
Yeah, it's like we can't find this one character, and it's like, well, just text him.
I really love the art style too. Like the backgrounds, most of them look like they're photographs that have been like like heavily filtered in various ways. And then the characters have like these thick outlines, and it just looks really good. And like you said, they do like the pursing lips thing a lot.
That lip sync was so weird.
I know I don't know when we're going to get answers back, but RPGsight's going to do an interview with some of the people that worked on this game, and I'm pretty sure it's one of the questions we've asked.
What's with the person lips?
Yeah, because it's really funny.
It's hilarious. Like it's funny because like you're playing this horror game with and it's kind of like tense and suspenseful, and they're talking about these heavy things, and all of a sudden like Irio's doing this like pursy lip thing, and I'm like, what is going on? Why is he doing that to his lips?
Yeah, it's just a funny face.
Yeah.
And actually, my favorite thing is, I don't know if like the organ was the right word, but like whenever there's like a little twist revealed, like it does that.
Yeah.
like I think it's some kind of organ or something like that. It's really funny.
Yeah, it's very. It does. It sounds like a church organ, like a jamming the keys or whatever, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, so if you're interested in visual novels, especially with like sort of a horror to thriller theme, definitely.
Yeah,
must play.
Yeah,
I want another one already. I was like, as soon as I finished this, I was like, oh, now what do I play?
Oh yeah, it's really good. It's not the same as, it's obviously different from Phoenix Wright, but it gives me that kind of same vibes of
that's because you've got like the picking up and the pointing and clicking stuff.
Yeah, and the like having to do things in a certain order, and figuring out riddles and stuff. Like it gave me the same sort of feeling, like the good feeling of playing a Phoenix Wright game. So I mean, if you enjoy Phoenix Wright games, I think you'd enjoy something like this. But hopefully not the last visual novel from Square.
Yeah, it's just I feel like they should have promoted it a bit better. Like at least putting it in the English direct would have helped it immensely.
Yes. Well, Square Enix is no stranger from
leaving things out to die.
Yeah, just assuming that you'll figure it out. You'll find out it was released, won't you?
Yeah. What do you mean all these several games in the same genre of like barely nearly full price within months of each other did not sell well?
It must have been the game's fault.
Yeah. Yeah, not anyone's budget or time. Or like I said, I don't know. Sometimes they seem a little out of touch with normal people. Like they're too busy making the games to buy games themselves, and they don't understand the mentality.
Well, that's the thing. Like even me, who is like a pretty big Square Enix fanatic, can only keep up so much. Like,
well, on the plus side, they all flopped so hard that I was able to pick up a lot of those last year releases for half the price.
Yeah,
very very quickly.
I was very happy to find some old PS4 Square games for 10, 20.
Oh yeah, most of those to be pretty cheap.
Yeah.
But there was one game I cleared off because I had too many. Like I was just not going to buy them because I looked it up and then the copy that was in good condition's gone, and I'm like, I don't want to pay $10 for like a slightly less good condition. But there was some game and like a bunch of it was like RPGs on 360. And I never heard of like The Last Remnant or whatever. And like okay, it's on Switch anyway. Like, it's
Yeah.
ported. Like it's or yeah, because you're collecting all of those, and I'm thinking like, oh, here's a bunch of other ones, and then here's this phone exclusive RPG, and
Well, the
actually,
phone ones,
Paranormasight was on phones, wasn't it? I think. Let me see.
it might have been.
Because I was
I'm just
confused
pretending
because
those
it's
don't
on,
exist.
it's on, yeah, it's on phones, it's on Switch, it's on PC, and I think it's not on PlayStation, which really confused me. I was like, what?
Oh, really? I just thought it was Xbox was the only spot it wasn't.
Let me have a look. But when I first looked, I think it was. Yeah, no, not on PlayStation.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. I will say there was one point of issue with the controls on the Switch. So I had to take it into handheld mode to use the touchscreen because you had to like shake and it was just not working with the
Oh, I know what you're
sticks.
talking about.
So I had to literally take it out and then smash my fingers and like
Oh, it
and then
wasn't
it
too bad
worked.
for me.
Yeah, but with the sticks it just
Yeah, when it said shake, I thought it wanted me to shake left and right, but then I figured out it was up and down. And I'm
oh,
like,
that might have been the problem then.
yeah, because I was like, okay, up and down doesn't make any sense, but I
Yeah,
mean
that
it
would be
works. So
not.
yeah,
Okay, that might have. Yeah, maybe if I try that, it might work.
yeah. The only thing I had to do with the Steam Deck was there's spots where you have to type things in, and I had to do like the key combination to bring up the keyboard, but other than that, it was fine.
I do like that. Like it has a narrator too.
Yes.
Like you get interrupted partway through. Um, and there's a bit where it's like, "Oh, what do you think's happening?" And it's like, "Oh, that's what you think." Okay, and I'm like, "Is it right or wrong?" Is it?
Oh, well, there is
But
one at the very beginning, like when the prologue ends, and he asks the question,
yeah,
and he just told me flat out I was wrong. And I'm
yeah,
like,
that
no,
one he
it
told
was
you
this
wrong,
many.
and then he didn't tell you another one of what was wrong or right. And then when I
Yeah.
got one right, he was like, "You got it," and I'm like, "Yeah." I now I can't remember what it was now, but like there was something I figured out, which I felt like it was too late because I was like, it took me a while to figure out. But then he asked me it later. I'm like, oh, okay, I was only just supposed to figure this out. That's all right then. I'm ahead of the game. But yeah, it's very good, and I want more of it now immediately. Give
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's another game that you're. I think you said are you finished the game now? This last game on our list.
Yeah. Review's pretty much done. I'm just waiting. I gotta fix a couple things, but waiting for it to get looked at and edited, basically.
Yeah, I know you were excited for Atelier Ryza 3, and
Yeah.
then it didn't want to go toe to toe with Octopath Traveler 2, so
um. Yeah, so I ended up taking a Switch code for some reason, so I'm dealing with the lack of visual fidelity, which isn't so bad because like the loading times are like pretty fast for the Switch because like the game's takes place in massive open areas. Like the entire world of the first game is just one map that you can continuously walk through. Aside from like
no HD thighs. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, yeah. But aside from there's like bits where you got a boat, but like yeah, so it's really funny to see the whole first game's area is just like one loaded area.
Oh, it's
But
impressive for the Switch.
the average loading time I think was about 5 seconds, maybe longer if I was loading a cutscene or something. But just like the average, it was like pretty fast because I know when I played the last game on PS5 it was like instant. But these areas are also like a lot bigger. They're not segmented. Because there's a few of them. And whenever I see a new pretty location with like crystal trees and like all these colors, I'm like, oh man, I just wish I was playing this on my PS5 and I just picked up my own copy instead of taking a review.
I usually say that after I take a review. It's like, why didn't I just buy this game?
Yeah. Especially because I kept getting stuck like partly because a lot of the areas are some of it was just getting lost because the areas are very windy. And like until you find a landmark, the map doesn't clear up for that area. So you've got to try and figure out how to get to this point where it's telling you how many like meters away it is, but you're like, I can't go around that way. How do I get there? But the thing that annoys me the most that's like really bothered me the whole game is the text size. is so small, and it's white, and the most of the cutscenes have a bit of a background for it, and like that's a slightly bigger text size, but still pretty small. And then like the side menus actually have a blur behind it, so you can actually stand out a bit more. But the generic little text that happens when you're in the field and they talk, that is so tiny and it's white and there's no background. And some of it's kind of semi-important because it'll be a character talking about what to do next, or like it's not just the generic. Because it's like I'm just picking this up, blah blah blah. Do we need this or something? But like sometimes it's actually unique new dialogue, and I'm like, I'm squinting. I'm gonna. Gust owes me prescription glasses or something after this because it's a crafting RPG and everything's just so small and tiny, and handheld doesn't make it any better. And then there was like a bunch of motion blur and stuff that I guess I wasn't noticing because I was trying too hard to read, and they fixed that, but nothing about fixing the text, and it's like, really? I know I'm of the opinion that I might like Atelier Ryza 2 better, but I do know there's at least, not that it's bad, right? I just like the way everything seemed a lot tighter in Ryza 2. Because in Ryza 3, you're in these multiple big areas. One of the things I mentioned is like the merchant that you see in each area and you develop with. I've got to double check that but like as far as I'm aware, inventory is completely different per area instead of being connected.
Oh.
So I'm gonna write it down because I gotta double check that. But as far as I'm aware, that wasn't like, yeah, it's just I 2 had like this dungeon exploration mechanic, and there's nothing like that in this one.
There's no dungeon in this. Oh, jeez.
Like there's like areas you go to that are kind of like, there's like a little castle ruins and things like that, but it's not like how 2 was, where it was like you were unlocking things in the notebook, and that was giving you SP for the skill tree, things like that.
Does she have her own apartment that she got rented out to her this time?
No, she builds a new atelier each different land she goes to.
Boo!
So now I have different ateliers. I just, because I knew they weren't going to necessarily keep all things from 2, like the dungeon thing, obviously, but it's just like, I miss it. I feel like felt really connected with the townspeople and everything in the second one because it was all like flowing in together and very like sort of tight, or it's this openness sort of.
Yeah, it's strange because I felt like Ryza 2 did like a lot better than previous ones. It was kind of like hitting its stride, so it's funny that they would take such a left turn.
I think most people really like Ryza 3 though, but I know at least me and one other person are like, but I kind of like 2 better. And then some people posting things like how different the UI looks, and it's like they might have had slightly different teams working on 2 than 3.
Yeah.
And then having played Atelier Sophie 2 last year, obviously they keep the mechanics from each sort of series, because like this is the Secret series and Sophie's from the Mysterious, I think, series. Different. So like, in all the Ryza games, the synthesis is the same systems and things, but there's one thing from the battle system in Sophie 2 I wish was in here, because in Sophie 2 you would run into enemy in the world, and then it would just sort of load the battle where you were, so any nearby enemies would be in that fight, and then you finish the fight, they wouldn't be there. Whereas in this, it's like the old style, you smack them, and then a random number of enemies will come, and then that battle ends, and then that enemy that was standing right next to them is still there because they didn't join that fight.
Oh, jeez.
And like going from that to that, I'm like, this is super annoying. I've also loaded into an area and the enemies smacked into me before my character could even exist and move. Performance wise, it wasn't too bad until I got to like the more foresty green area, and like, I don't know, I can't tell frame rates myself, but like I assume it's like a stable frame rate normally. But when I was riding the mount in this area, the game, I don't know if stuttering's the word, but the game would literally like freeze in place for a good 2-3 seconds, and I thought it was gonna crash, and then it would like go back. So it was good up until like, I guess doing that in that particular area seems to.
Any pop in or anything like that?
Oh yeah, heaps of that. Like I said, like enemies appearing before I appear if I fast travel, and then I get caught into a fight. So yeah, definitely like lots of that. But they are like these massive.
Yeah.
This is these pretty big areas on the Switch by a team that isn't Nintendo's A team. So
Yeah.
like I don't know how big the team specifically for. I think I couldn't find out how many employees Gust has because like they're a division of Koei Tecmo, but they don't have the exact numbers for how many people work on this because it's normally a yearly.
I was gonna say
series.
there has to be a good chunk of people because there seems to always be an Atelier game every
Yeah,
year. So
there's one pretty much every year, except that like there was a gap between like one game and then the first Ryza game, but then they released 2 games that year, and then the same. And then this year we're getting 2 games, although one's just a remake of the first game, so it's significantly less of a big deal. But like, I think they're kind of split now because obviously I think this game has been working on for a while because they've done this big open, not a whole open world because again it's different areas, but like big open sections.
yeah.
I guess kind of like how Xenoblade 3 does it. Yeah, it's like you go into this one huge map and then it's just loading if you're fast traveling or going to a different map basically.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's just some random little changes which can like this one ingot I wanted. Like in the first 2 games, you do it through a specific skill you can do while alchemizing, and in this one, it's in the skill tree to unlock the recipe. And it's like, why did you change that? Why? Again, it's just like, isn't like game designer a job? Isn't it someone's job to be like, this doesn't make sense? This is stupid. Like,
they maybe they had some departures, some newbies come on the team, and they didn't, or maybe it was made during COVID. They were all working from home and had different ideas of how things. Not enough discussions between the team members on how to make things smooth.
and I think sometimes when you like take up a review code, you're like, oh, maybe I'm not enjoying this just because of the burden. But then I got to a point where I was actually enjoying it. Like, and one thing I will say before that point was like, I'm going through the intro stuff. And I'm like, I want to be free because I know I've played this game so, and it actually does take the reins off you pretty early on. Like you've got to go here, but like from there you can pretty much just explore that and most of that map and like alchemize what you can and stuff. So it does definitely not newbie friendly, really. Like I feel like the second Ryza game you could play without playing the first one, but this one, because it's the whole conclusion to the whole story and everything, you definitely need to play the first 2 to play this one.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
because the second one was the only Ryza game I played, but I felt that it explained things pretty well when I didn't feel like I knew I knew what I was doing. Like
yeah,
I was able to do things. Like it didn't seem like I was going to get any trouble. So.
whereas this, like, it does like lots of like flashbacks and stuff, but and they do which I haven't watched it yet, but like with Sophie 2 they did like this movie that explains like the gist of what happened in Sophie 1, and they have one for gist of what happens in 1 and 2 of Ryza. But it definitely, because it's like you get not all the characters, but the characters from the first game, all of them, and a couple from the second game, or like 1 or 2 join you, and that's all very well connected into this story. And there are so many cutscenes, so many. It's like, I was starting to enjoy myself, and then I hit the bit of the game that feels like filler because, like, yes, the new characters need character development because we've got like the 2 new people, but it was also like we're starting to build up towards like we're finally figuring out like what's going on, like what's and then it's just like, now go and do blah 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 and this to get some clues, and it's like, ugh. It was like finally having fun, and then it was just like cutscene, and there's heaps of them in those games because like you have the individual little character development arcs and stuff, and like they're marked on the map, so at least this time I could mostly avoid them if I didn't want to get stuck in a bunch, because you can kind of get in a loop where if a cutscene like teleports you to somewhere else and then it like puts you into another cutscene, and like that happened a few times. But just the main story, there's a lot of it, and it's just like, oh my god.
How long has the game been generally? Like,
Pretty, I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty long. Like, I think it's definitely longer than the second game. But that's because, yeah. And then I got stuck a lot, though. So,
yeah.
like, yeah. I'm think at least like 40 something for me, but that's because I was getting like, you know. And then that doesn't count when I failed a boss fight several times because like a couple of times I've just like shut the game and gone back to it and not like saved after I've gotten kicked out, you know. So
Yeah. Well, you're a Ryza or an Atelier veteran too, so
yeah, well, I think like I said before, I didn't know those games have difficulty settings until I was listening to someone else's podcast and they're like they're playing on very hard and I'm just on normal because that's like the default and I'm like, wait a minute, you mean I could like could have just I generally play on normal because I'm like, well, if easy gets too hard, you can't turn the difficulty down, can you? But
yeah.
you know,
I usually just go with whatever the developer. I figure
yeah,
the
what they
default
tell
is what
you,
the developer wants me to play, so I'll play
yeah.
whatever they want me to play.
Mm. But yeah, I have no idea. Like that would have really helped me out with Sophie too. So, like, I felt the difficulty, and that was pretty balanced up until the final boss, and I was like, what the. But this, it was like, it's definitely good, and it's a good, you know, it's, and I think a lot of people are gonna love the big open world and stuff. I just felt like there's a lot of what I loved about two is kind of lost in that because they're
Yeah.
just making these big areas and all that. Um, and because it's a clear conclusion to her story, there's a lot of story. And when you're trying to play through a long game kind of quickly, it's very wearing on you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess the for the official review, the official score in text, folks will have to head over to Nintendo World Report when that gets posted. You're doing the NWR review. Jordan roped you into it.
Yeah, I know. I was like, uh, I don't know if he thinks it was a favor for me because I feel like I'm doing it as a favor for him, and now I'm like, because I was like, before I accepted, I'm like, I'm gonna regret this, aren't I? And then yeah,
Yeah.
it's just,
I think you should run with it as a favor to him, so that
yeah,
when you need something, then you'll be like, "You remember that time when I did that review for
yeah,
you?
yeah. Because it's like
Now it's
I
time
feel
you
like
do a favor for
I
me."
feel like I was like, oh, shouldn't I just because the Switch codes were like a week before it come out, and it's like, you know, like you can't be that in that time, right? Even if it is your full time job, that still, mm, you know.
Yeah. Well,
But
they're not paying at Nintendo World Report, let me tell you.
no, so I was like, oh, I'll just do it as like a favor because if he's asking me, clearly I don't have anyone to do it. And then I was like, why didn't I just buy my copy of the game? I could have been playing on the PlayStation 5. I would have had zero loading times and everything would look pretty. Although one person I was talking to, they feel like the game doesn't look as good as it could because they obviously have to get it to work on the Switch. So
That dang Switch,
yeah,
making everything worse.
yeah. But those niche Japanese games need to be on the Switch, or they're not gonna sell
No, that's true.
in their own country anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how many. I don't know about Atelier. It's probably still mostly Japan, other than the Ryza games. But like, it's funny how many series actually need to be localized in order to actually kind of make their money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even like Square Enix still, I think, still makes the bulk makes a lot of money in their own country, sort of thing. Or like a lot of a lot of these Japan based ones, even if they're doing well overseas, they still seem to think about their own country first. So.
Yeah. But I was saying like there's some other ones where it's like I think with the AI games, it's like if the Japanese sale numbers compared to the Western are pretty bad. You know, like some people like I think if they didn't make it in English, there would have been problems.
Yeah, well, I hope it's doing well everywhere because I'd love to see the third. I'd love to see a trilogy, AI trilogy. I'm hoping that's in the cards one day.
You mean a pack or sorry, it was spaced out.
Oh, sorry.
What did you say again? I just spaced out when you like something.
Oh, the AI. I was just saying the AI. I'm hoping
AI
that we have
trilogy.
the AI trilogy. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know because there were some things in the sequel I wasn't happy about, and like the way they handled not spoiling things. I'm just like,
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, Rise 3 is still like a very good game. It's just that my preference is to.
Yeah.
I don't build things bad, like, but and like they have a reason for not keeping the mechanic, some of the things that they did in Sophie 2, and then probably different teams working on the game. So it's like one of those. I was like, really, because this was a really good change. You don't have it in this one. I'm like,
Well, everyone who's played Ryza 3 and agrees with Paige, make sure that you write to Koei Tecmo and make sure that you reference
get the text fixed.
Yep. And make sure you tell them that Paige told you to complain to them.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, any final thoughts on anything? I know. So, do you have anything lined up to play after Ryza 3?
Nope.
Just gonna see where the mood takes you.
Before I got the code, I was really enjoying Strays and Lost Demon. Then I put that down to play this, and now I'm not in the mood to go back to it. And I was like, man, if I just bought the game myself, I could have finished Strays and Lost Demon in time to play Rise of 3. I guess I got to finish the Engage DLC is what I'm working on.
Okay.
Practice some Mario Kart, and
you gotta beat
I don't
those 10
know,
notes.
because there's a lot of things I picked up that I haven't really touched because I put down or whatever, like something like, because I was keeping up with the new releases up until I guess Ishin, and I didn't really touch that.
I feel like I've spent so much money on old Square games. I have to play something from that backlog.
I'm doing this thing where I'm writing every game I've bought this year, and I usually drop a ball pretty early on in the year. Even this time, I've gone back and I've forgotten to write some of the physical games I've picked up, and I'm like, really? So I had to put them back in order. But I've picked up a lot because I've still got like one more pay of maternity leave money left, and that's more than I normally ever earn myself. So it's just like, it's got some digital games and some 3DS games and some Wii games.
You got to build up that library for when that baby's old enough.
Yeah, it's her inheritance. Yeah, it's very important. Well, it's 2 weeks till Advance Wars, and possibly I'm picking up Grim Grimoire if it's at the shop in Adelaide that I'm going to next week. Because it's only digital in Australia for some reason. Although I was still on the last level of the demo for it, because you have to do things a very specific way in this fight with the dragon, and I keep mucking up at the start to even get to the point where I'm like trying to figure things out myself. So I don't know. I started finish the Engage DLC, and then I'll sit in the void of not really being in the mood to play anything. Which is how I felt after Paranormasight. I was just like,
yeah.
Now what?
Well, that's where I am. I'm at now what? I'd like to have something. I've been getting into a bit of a streaming mood, so I've been tinkering with that. So I'm just trying to find a good game to play through, and then
did start the new Melon Journey game actually, because I streamed that. Was it Melon Journey Bittersweet Memories? Because it was like this game I played in like 2012. It was just like some free game off Tumblr where it's like this old green soft pastel like melon colored aesthetic, and it was literally just a trade quest game made in RPG Maker. And then I see this game called Melon Journey and like the color scheme, like, oh, that really looks like this game, and it is. It's the sequel to that.
I saw. I was gonna say I saw your tweets on that one.
It's the sequel to it. So far, I haven't really hit any gameplay. It's mostly just I've been walking around and talking, so I don't know if it's still in the same trade quest style or not. But I think that's something I'll just sit and enjoy in my own time. So that is something I have to play now because that came out. I didn't post it yet, but it's very funny because you see this fire hydrant and you read and it says a beautiful art installation of a cardboard sculpture of a fire hydrant. And then you go to this guy standing next to another fire hydrant, and it's like, "Oh, what a beautiful sculpture!" And you look at it, and it says a regular fire hydrant. And it's funny because you've looked at the other fire hydrant that was an art installation. So it's just heaps of like lots of text. I think that one's better to not stream, so I can just read it. But it's so funny. It's like, oh, it really looks like this game, and it is. It's the sequel to that game.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I do have a couple little things to play.
Okay.
And it's good to have some little things.
Yeah. Paige G Guy is the Twitch name too, right?
Yeah, I just like rebranded to that and put it on everything basically.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, if people want to head over to there, also I don't really have a schedule of when I'm doing. I'm just really getting into it. But if you can also the Thirsty Mage has a Twitch channel with a couple videos on there now. One with Octopath where I get the Arcanist job class, and then there's a video of the first 45 minutes of Final Fantasy Type O, where I am shocked and surprised at the amount of gore in a Final Fantasy game. Was not expecting it. So I don't say too much in it because I'm just my jaw's on the floor pretty much the whole time because I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know that this existed. I didn't know we could have this much blood spurting out of a
all I knew about
student
it
in a school, and
people saying about the motion blur. It came with a demo for Final Fantasy 15, and like I told you, the characters have unique underwear.
Yeah, and my head was spinning from all the terms that were being tossed out. It's like this country from this area, this empire, and I'm like, oh my god, like I have to watch this again because I'm not retaining anything here. All I know is one big group of people were attacking another big group of people. There was blood everywhere. Some Eidolons came out and butchered a bunch of people. Some big robot. It was a blast. But yeah, we might see some more of that. So yeah, you can check out those. Yeah, and then I guess keep an eye out for the Ryza 3 review from Paige. I'm sure I'll tweet it out once it's out there, so you can make sure to follow us on the Thirsty Mage on Twitter. But I guess that will probably do it for this episode. I want to thank everyone for listening. And yeah, I don't know not sure what the future holds for us in the next few weeks, but I'm sure we'll be playing some fun games and talking about them. So until the next episode, I want to thank everyone and see you next time. Bye.